Funeral planning is an emotional time, but figuring out how to pay for your final wishes only makes it more difficult.
But there are ways to save money. As KCTV5's Abigail James shows us, a number of big box retailers are getting into the funeral business.
William Coaches is already thinking about his funeral.
I'm 67 years old, and the future is the future, and I'd like to have things arranged.
He says his own father, just 56 years old when he passed, was not prepared.
The emotional situation overwhelms a person.
Coaches says he's planning on going the route of setting up a prepayment plan with a funeral home, something his own sister did.
And then paid monthly in installments.
While it's best to discuss end-of-life wishes with loved ones ahead of time, many people shy away from this difficult conversation or never get the chance to have it at all.
This is one of our most popular caskets.
And with the abundance of options and information surrounding funerals, it can quickly become overwhelming during an already difficult time.
To me, it's almost a sequence of like ordering a new car. How many options do you want?
According to Lincoln Heritage Funeral Advantage, the average funeral costs between $7,000 and $12,000. The average cost of a funeral with cremation, that'll cost you around $6,000 to $7,000. Sounds expensive, right? And these costs don't even include a cemetery, monument, marker, or other things like flowers. But there are ways to save.
The main way we do it is by doing packages.
Damon Piggy is the funeral director at Golden Gate in Kansas City. He says their packages are all customizable.
We have packages that range from $3,750 all the way up to $10,000.
The most important thing to consider is knowing your rights before planning for a funeral. One thing to note is that you do not have to purchase a casket from a funeral home. You can order one from a third-party retailer, and by law, the funeral home has to accept it.
Between Walmart and Sam's, Costco's, Amazon, they're really one-stop shops.
That's right. Not only can you buy automotive parts, clothes, and food, nowadays you can even purchase a casket online. The Federal Trade Commission notes the average casket costs slightly north of $2,000. But at these major third-party retailers, you can get one as low as $900. But be careful, because you could end up paying more than you think in the end. Because at some funeral homes like Piggy's, if you don't purchase a casket through them, you aren't eligible for a discounted package.
But from there, everything else that's not included is itemized, and they'll end up coming out of more money going that route.
According to Eric Smith, owner of Direct Casket Outlet, another way to save on funeral costs is the embalming process. The Federal Trade Commission says there are no states that require routine embalming for every death.
But if you're just doing private family viewing, just a graveside service, you don't need to be embalmed.
You also don't have to take advantage of a funeral home's visitation and memorial services, unless this is something that is important to the family or deceased. And when it comes to purchasing a vault, something that could cost you an additional $1,000 or more, Smith says you don't necessarily have to purchase it.
Most cemeteries do require them, but there's at least 6 cemeteries I know of that do not require, at least in part of their cemetery.
In the end, it's a planning process that when it comes down to it, Piggy says is more about the families.
The burial and the funeral, the whole ceremony is more for the living than it is for the deceased.
Which is another reason Coaches says he plans to have everything taken care of ahead of time.
Having an event that's memorable and meaningful and has emotion connected in a positive form.
Abigail James, KCTV5 News.